seagulls follow the trawl, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
And as we say now in my country, they brought the bus and they left the bus in front of the goal.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Welcome to the T.N.F. and I'm just thinking about two sporting giants, two institutions going head to head. This Sunday, you could call it a judgment day of sorts, but it's two massive rivals. And yes, I am paying $19.95 to see Jake Paul against Tommy Fury. Anyway, lads, what's happening? How are we all doing?
Doing very well, mate, yourself.
Oh, all good, mate. All good. We've got a busy team tonight. A busy team. We've got. Wait a minute. What day is it? I thought it was Bustalgia for a second there because we've got Phil McKinley. You're actually going to answer me that too. Phil must be really worried about me these days. He's like, I'll help him out. It's Thursday, Bhoycie.
Aye, but we do Monday clubs on Tuesdays and stuff, so I can understand your confusion. I can understand.
Good point. I never saw that. But anyway, yeah, we've got Phil and of course Liam, the punked up warlord. Fame of Bustalgia fame. And then we've got Judge Kearney. Mark Kearney is on. How the three of us are doing. I hope you're as excited as I am for Sunday. It is something very much to look forward to. And hello, passengers as well, because there is over 75 watching live already right now. Frightening, because we're only 4 minutes into the show. So thank you very much for that. And if you are there, do all that good stuff. Hit the like button, gets us all the algorithm, all the traction and all that nonsense on YouTube. If you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, you can. It's $1.99 a month. It's totally optional. Guys like John Logue have done it. John, get that off. You don't need to do that, mate. Celtic in the Hill, the return of Chunks in My Trunks, who's still looking for a ticket. Gary Brown, he's a member as well. Loads of yous are. Martin Wilmot, he is as well. I don't read your name out very often, mate. So a big thank you to all of yous. But it's totally optional. All the content is free. Obviously, remember as well, if you want to share it on social media and all that, brilliant. But keep the live chat going, because the most important thing on the T.N.F. is you guys' point of view and giving it to us to discuss at great length. And of course, looking just up there, piesports.com. Bus 1888. Stick that in the checkout. Get 12.5% off. They must be making a roaring trade right now. I'm telling you, man. Because folk are fans of these pies. I'm telling you, they're getting You know, they're selling quicker than hot pies. And we've got, of course, the Bumblebee kit. And, you know, Bhoycie Bus kit. It's 40 quid. Staying at 40 quid. If you want one, get one. The podcast teams are arriving soon. I think everyone's going to be pretty impressed by these. They are pretty special, what we've done. So once you see us all wearing them, you'll be snapping them up. But they are doing well. And thanks to each and every one of you who has bought one. Have I missed anything?
I think that's it. I do find that the good stuff list does get bigger every week, but I think you've covered everything there, Russell.
Sound. If you're listening on your favourite podcast platform, hello to you as well. Hello. Right, okay, let's get stuck into it. It's the T.N.F. Usually we do a couple of points at the start. We've kind of had this conversation, Mark. You've not really had much of a say on the talk of the Celtic end. So before we go into full-blown battle fever and all that, talking about Hampden Park, yeah, let's get your tuppence with me on the old Celtic end scenario, or proposal, I believe you could call it instead.
Well, you're right, it's the T.N.F, so it's all about the viewers' questions and the viewers' points, but I just thought I would quickly just give my take on it, because sometimes it's hard to give your take given the 100 characters or whatever it is you get on the comments, so I'm not going to say much about it, but it's just where I'm on it. I'm for the idea of a standing section being enlarged. I'm totally in favour of. I think it's a great idea for Celtic to have maybe this modern approach to what some folk want to see in the stadium, but no at the expense of 10,000 Celtic fans. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a great idea to eject members of the Lisbon Lions stand who've been sitting there since the late 90s for this self-serving purpose. I mean, a couple of the things I want to pick up on the flyer or the pamphlet that was dished out was so there was claimed that the Celtic end would return the atmosphere to its glory days. Well, pick up on that one. First of all, the atmosphere was always good before the Green Brigade turned up. You know what I mean? It was in the early 90s, mid 90s when football was good at times, but the results were terrible. The atmosphere was great. But what I don't get is why they chose the Lisbon Lions stand, because if you want to go back to the glory days, surely the jungle would be your preferred location of this piece of nostalgia that you're pretending that you're wanting to get to the Celtic Park, when really it's a self-serving purpose to get the stand behind the goals, to bask in all the last-minute winners that the Jockstein stand seems to enjoy. So I don't really get why they chose the Jockstein rather than the North Stand. I think it was because I think the Jockstein stand's an easy target. It's a soft target, as Steve-O says, and I think he's spot on. But what else have we got here? I think what happens if they get their wish and everybody says, I'm up for it. So we're fine. We all want this safe standing. So, and we're happy to stay here. So where are they going to go? See if we all say, well, you're right, but you're bang on spot on. We all want this safe standing. So where are they going to go? Because they've already said that if the safe standing gets okayed by the Lisbon Lions stand, that the North Club will be put back to chairs or whatever, turn it into disability sections, which I hope. So if they get their wish and we all say, that's fine, we'll stand here. That's a great idea. Thanks for the idea. So where are they going to go? You know what I mean? So are they just going to come in anyway, whether we want to stay or no? You know what I mean? What else? It's going to create money for the club. Well, I don't know if anybody knows this. Well, I'm pretty sure the people who are sitting off cover know this. Every standing bit has got to have a fold down bit for a seat. So the exact same space is taken up for a seat as it is for a standing section, because the standing section gets folded down. So you're going to have the same amount of chairs as you did have for standing. So it would actually cost us money, because it would cost you money to actually install the thing in the first place. And then all the provisions that comes with it.
Would they charge more maybe for that stand?
Well, that could be an idea, Bhoycie. I mean, maybe an extra £50-100, you know what I mean? And Jockstein's already £700 nearly. So what else? I picked it apart, quite honestly. It was billed as a solution to the problem. What problem? This problem didn't exist until they made it up. 2 weeks ago, they made this problem up. But I don't think it's a problem at Celtic Park needing more standing sections. It's maybe a wish for a lot of people. It's not a problem. What else? And also I think the fines is going to multiply. You know what I mean? If you're turning the 2,500 into 15,000 or 10,000, there's got to be more muppets who want to come in and cause trouble. I mean, that's a fact. You know what I mean? You get folk uneven attached to the ultras that just want to become, latchers or hangers on and just create problems for them. So you're going to get more fines. You're going to get more trouble. Just go back to the very beginning. Just 1 minute. I'm not going to hold you up too long. I just when I seen this, I was quite disgusted by it. To be honest with you, I found it. I think Ross out of the Endless Celts, he said the exact same thing as me. Found it quite ironic that the most anti-elitist faction in your support have now decided to do the most elitist thing by deciding what Celtic Park should look like, what Celtic fans should behave like, and why they should support the club. And to them, their vision is Celtic Park as the quote unquote all fans want to see. No, all fans want to see this.
I hate that sort of narrative. That's
The thing is, I'd probably say about certainly my stand, I'd probably say it's half and half between guys that are over their 30s, and we don't all want to jump about mental and put bucket hats on and wear Adidas trainers and jump about like nutters. You know what I mean? Somebody just want to go and watch Celtic, and do you know something? Some of them see it as a bit of a sideshow. Rather, I look in the ultras section, I don't see one Celtic top, not one. So I find that very interesting. Now they've already got, they've been built. The North Curve was built for them, right? They've got access to the stadium to build their banners, which they do a very good job of. They've got access to paint murals inside the stadium, which is fine. They're allowed to sell their merchandise, which goes against, I don't know any business that lets other people sell merchandise inside their stadium, but Celtic gave them permission for that, which is good on the club. I think that's quite good to outreach and let the fans do things like that. It just shows that they're not just this corporate monster. So they've got all these things going for them, all these good things given to them, and they just keep pushing the boundaries. I've not been to Celtic Park and heard one person say to me, "Do you know something? No, we need more stands and sections." No, I've heard ultras come baby statements like this, and this word ultra, what does it mean? Are they an ultra fan?
Are we not going away from the argument here, though? Because I think you built it up pretty well, and I think then it falls down. I don't like getting told about the political side of it, I've got to admit, but the Adidas trainers, I like Adidas trainers, right? So fucking get a nerve there, man.
No, but that's their costume of choice. But I went to hear that you carry on, Bhoycie, but I'm just I think I'll go into one, mate. I goes into one bracket for me. They think they are the Celtic support, and the rest of your shoes need to fall into line. And what they're trying to do is revolting.
That's your perspective of them doing. What I would say is, I wasn't for it anyway when we had the debate about it, but I think it's fair to be balanced. And I think the point of view you get from someone who's sat there for that long, why would they want to do that? I totally am with you on that. I think then, whilst they can't speak for a whole Celtic sport, I don't think we can then sit and speak for how every one of them thinks or dresses or whatever either. I think we've got to be a wee bit sad for that. So there was loads of good arguments that you've made there, by the way, before that.
I know there was.
One thing I think, exactly, I agree with you on them. But I think when it comes to then the generalising thing going to and fro, then the whole argument's getting lost. What I would say is, and the one argument I do take on board, I think it's a spectacle. It would look amazing, and I definitely think secondly that, whether this is what you view as progress or I view as progress, at some point for something to progress, there will be a change that happens. Because if you were talking about, I don't know, redeveloping a stand, who are you going to see all the folks that will be affected when you're redeveloping the stand? Or what are we doing that for? And again, you're always going to have people upset. But in the long run, and I'm not saying necessarily this example, this proposal, but in the long run, there will be a short-term pain for, again, that is what happens with progress, unfortunately. In this instance, I have to say I'm no for it, but I think I agree with your points on it at the beginning. I just think I don't know enough for them to generalize what all their thoughts are, but I know what you're saying about the pamphlet. When it says on the pamphlet we speak for all Celtic fans, then I'm
No,
surprised.
I was tongue in cheek when I was talking about Adidas chairs and the rest of it. I mean, there is worse brands than Adidas out there. I'm sure there is, but I'm just saying, like, I was just trying to be probably a bit tongue in cheek, but my point does stand, and I'll leave it at that. But my point does stand that even with the pros, they've not introduced any cons into their pamphlet. So, and can I tell you something as well? Not once in the full pamphlet did they say, look, first of all, we apologise for anybody who's going to be affected by this. Far from it. They make us feel like they were the different people.
I think that's a good point, because if they've not acknowledged that in it, then that's just basic communication skills and so like psychology skills as well. I would definitely be getting that acknowledgement in there of those people. I think you're absolutely spot on that would be affected, Mark. I think that's, if they've not done that, then, and you've got the pamphlet in front of you, then I agree. I think that's a poor move. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, we'll move on. But I do appreciate that, Mark, because it's good to get your take on it all as well. But there's just more pressing matters for me this week. And I'll tell you what it is. It's in the shape of, I'll come at you firstly. I'm sick of talking to Phil. Me and him have just done a bus stop. So we've done 20 minutes. Yeah, but it's bubbling along nicely, isn't it? We're getting to that stage where Sunday's getting closer. It's not quite just around the corner yet, but it's getting closer. And the tension in the ranks, the anticipation in the air, it's all just a nice wee recipe for what I think could be a game that, or a final, whatever you want to call it, or a derby. You like to say that? And but whatever it may be, I think the recipe is there for this to be a bit of a classic on Sunday.
I think so as well. I think I'm calling it out there. The way I see it right now and the way I feel about this one, this is just another. Rangers have propped themselves up so much this week that they can't do. I think it's just going to be in for a big letdown. And Ange, just the way Ange is coming across, the confidence, the humility, our people, Ange is saying all the right things. There's no way he's going to let that dressing room slack off or underperform or anything like that. If we're on this process, if we're always getting better and we're always improving on the last time, well, the last time we played them, well, other than at Ibrox, it was 4-0. I think we're looking for a 5-0 this time.
But you want to see the sign of the progress. You're absolutely right, Liam.
I think they're going to be I think they need a good slapping. And I think we're going to come out and we're just going to play them off the park. I'm really hoping to see a big game from Kyogo. You know, I think he's up for it. He's in the form. It's just about keeping him on the park. You know, I worry about physicality these games where he tends to get roughed up a wee bit in the early stages of the game, and that seems to either disappears for a wee bit or he goes off entirely. So I'm looking to see, it's like, get Kyogo firing within that first 10 minutes, let him making a statement of intent, get out there, and I think that the whole team will just like thrive. That confidence will flourish as we see Kyogo just starting to dominate their back two.
Phil, it's interesting that he brings up our Kyogo, because I think he's a player that we can have a deeper dive into tonight, because I know there's going to be obviously the Saturday session, Sunday Blether, but we'll all be over-analysing the news. But you know what? We're doing no different to what a daily newspaper or a 3 times, 4 times a day blogger. We want everyone's angle on this and in as much detail as we can possibly get. One of the talking points Liam's just sort of dropped in there about Kyogo's an interesting one, because that goal, not only for the fact it had a huge impact in the title destination, we might have all felt comfortable at the time where the title would still wind up. But when you look at the run they've sort of went on since, that goal's significance is undeniably increased, in my opinion, massively, right?
Yeah.
But it could have another wee angle to it as well. The wee man, like me, after 6 pint, 2 pint, has broke the seal. He's broke the seal, mate. And against them, that was the one hoodoo they had over him was, he can't do it against us. Well, he has, and it was quite an important one. And it was his last memory of that game is that goal. It's the last probably touch the boys had against Rangers was that goal. How big a bearing can that have as well? Now, he's broke the duck. I think broke the seal sounds a bit funnier just because I like talking fish. But I think that will be something very much that works in our favour when it comes to Kyogo. And you might see a new attitude to him. Maybe he was feeling the pressure of these bigger games being Celtic's talisman. Maybe he was confident with all the pressure on him when he was playing against the lesser teams. Maybe the Champions League campaign, dented his confidence a bit. But then along came Ibrox, and he has now got that goal. He is now in a position where he goes, oh, actually, that felt pretty good. And now they know he can score against them. He could be a far bigger game changer in this fixture, probably for the first time, from minute 1 as opposed to affecting at minute 90.
It's a huge psychological boost for him, because I know there was definitely a small pocket, I would say, in our fan base that felt like, is he going to be like, they're going to go through his whole Celtic career and they'll get a goal against them, just whether it was going off injured or just a game where it was just quiet for him. There was a bit of doubt at times, so it was good for him to get that off his back. You've also got to remember as well, he scored 2 goals in the League Cup final last year, so he's also got that as well in terms of a big cup final moment. He's got those goals, the experience of scoring in a National Cup final. So he's got that to his name, and the same with now getting that Rangers goal off his back. Because the thing is, as well, like I said at the time when we talked about the 2 each game as well, with at the times Kyogo can miss a lot. He misses probably as many chances as he actually scores. If he actually put away a lot of the chances that he missed, he's got to be on about 50 goals by now. But at the end of the day, he never ever hides away. You notice that as well. Other strikers might miss some of those chances and hide for the rest of the game, but he never ever does. But with that goal at Ibrox, looking at it from the outside, you might think, well, he's just blasting it effectively at an empty net. But there was a lot of technique in that goal as well. It might have looked a wee bit scrappy and outsider looking in, but there would have been fans that wouldn't be surprised if he would have fluffed that at that time. He needed the composure to put it that way, because one of the words we always used about him and Maeda, who funny enough that day did score as well, was composure. And I think that getting that goal now will help him settle down into these fixtures, and it will give him that confidence to say, you add on to what he did last year in the cup final against Hibs, just after we go a goal down, and he just basically takes the game by scruff of the neck, gets us right back in it, and scores a wonder goal to win it. He's got that experience as well. So it's all adding up nicely for Kyogo right now. He's got a lot going his way going into this game, and hopefully on Sunday, he's got something to smile about at the end of the game.
Mark, he's one of these people, I might say sometimes, didn't let the blonde highlights fool you. Didn't let Kyogo's, wee cheesy smile. I'm just happy to be here, fool you either, I think we were all in unison that if there was 2 guys who were not going to score at Ibrox prior to the game, it'd been Maeda and Kyogo, right? In fact, I'd have given you some odds on Celtic scoring 2 goals and that being the 2, because the Champions League still, that campaign was a bit raw, the memories were fresh, and there was inevitably questions of, at that time it should be Giakoumakis, or at that time we were saying, if these guys got to that sort of higher level, and like you're always honest enough to say on the bus, your Rangers are of a higher level than anything else in Scotland, we will play. Do you know what I mean? They are. That goes without a doubt. And at that point in time, of course, Kyogo in particular, had played them a few times, off injured. Is he too soft for the fixture? How come he's never really played that well against them and all this? But Phil gives the 2 examples that are brilliant examples. The League Cup final last year, albeit it was a wee bit longer than it was the end of
December 2021. We had
21,
to get because of the World Cup this year.
That's what I thought. It wasn't quite last year, but yeah, you know what I mean. The last League Cup final there was anyway. He's the game changer in that. And the last time we played Rangers, he was the game changer in that. So I'm fully confident, and with now, evidence to back that all up in 2 different sort of ways, albeit as well he's, far and away our best goal scorer. He could be a huge weapon against them and really set the tone, for a full 90 minutes display that we've not seen yet against them.
Aye, because I think it's the one thing it was missing was a goal against Rangers, or a big game goal, you know what I mean? And the one at Ibrox was a very big goal, you know what I mean? They get 3 points, it just gives him a wee sniff of blood, you know what I mean? And he silenced that crowd that day, and also basically put the nail in your coffin for the season. I think that was your last opportunity. And I think the same goes for the game on Sunday. I mean, I always feel like these games, when Celtic go into these games with a player or 2 on form, that they become almost like don't know, they become routine sometimes. See, we get into big games like this, and we've got a Scott Brown looking amazing, and we've got Callum McGregor doing his thing. We've got a striker who's on form. Alice just seems to just play it the way we wanted to play it. And I feel like we've got too many good players on form just now. I think right through that team, there's a lot of good players that are playing at their optimum levels just now. I mean, and Kyogo is probably one of the key players just now. I know he's scoring a lot of goals, but he's added a bit more to his game. He's actually dropping a bit further. He's getting more into the games. One thing I don't want to see him do on Saturdays, if he does manage to push somebody, I don't want to see him pick him up. I want to see a bit of nasty side, because sometimes you go to fight fire with fire with it in these games, and they will absolutely come out, and they know footballing wise that's of a lower class to us, but they can rough it up ways. They can certainly match us physically, if not outpower us. So they're going to use all these wee dirty tactics. We all know the referee's going to allow them to have 2 or 3 fouls before he pulls them up. So I want Kyogo to be focused on doing the nasty stuff as well as running in behind and try to get that killer finish and score a goal for the club. And do you know, that's the thing with Kyogo. He's not immune, as Phil said there, to missing these absolute sitters. But I say the same thing about Maeda. It takes a lot of balls to miss these chances, open goals, and still have the utter brass neck to just do it again and again, but still feel the confidence that you're going to score the next one. And Kyogo's got that. He never looks that down when he's missed a chance, and Maeda's the exact same. And maybe that's the thing with Giakoumakis. There was games where you knew that if he missed an early chance and he was looking at his feet every couple of minutes, and he was dragging his cell along the pitch, you knew he was gone mentally. He was gone. You know what I mean? Whereas I think Kyogo, his mentality is probably one of his biggest assets. And should he miss a chance that Phil mentioned earlier on, I was still back to score the next one. And
Yes.
I like getting a guy, and I think he broke his duck, as you say. So why not now that he's broke his seal? So why not just pile on the agony for this mob?
Well, it's a whole mob, and that's a poignant word, isn't it, Liam? It's a poignant word that Mark's using, and well, I think it's very interesting, because we've got a situation where right now, with Kyogo up top, the form he's in, we could focus on him, and it's great fun. We've got form all over the park, and I had a brilliant chat on Wednesday morning. Thanks to Johnny Logan, Steve O'Matt for coming on, and it was kind of just celebrating how good this team has been right now in the form they're in, and just taking note as well of like going. It's easy to get lost in the to and the fro's, and it's easy to get lost in getting one-upsmanship and all that, and the mind games before it. Let's take stock of how good Celtic have been, and we've got to be real. I mean, even on the bus, a lot of the PMPs, you've been on many, T.N.Fs maybe, and we've had discussions at times that have focused on maybe the one player in the team who's he's about out of form right now, isn't it? I mean, it's not a bad ratio that when you can only ever find one, whether that be at one stage Aaron Moy, whether at one stage that was Matt O'Reilly, although I thought he was good at the weekend, by the way, as well. I thought he looked more back at it. Whether it be Juranovic, whatever. So there never seems to be one out the 11 that's kind of toiling at any stage, right? I mean, the form that this team's in right now, and it's been in for a very consistent period as well, we've got to sort of try and focus on what we do, because if we do what we can do and play to our absolute best, then I do think that the cream rises to the top. I believe that. Now, that's not to say fixture's going to go that way. I'm just saying, hypothetically, both teams play at their best, Celtic win. I believe that would be the case. I've just got to quickly, before I get your take on that, say a big thank you to Alan Woods, who's donated £4.99. That's really, really kind. And apparently Tattoo Face, but I don't get a notification of this. So apologies.
Memberships.
How can you see that?
On YouTube, actually, if you watch it through YouTube, it comes
up,
up, but StreamYard doesn't give us the notifications in the chat. It's only through YouTube.
That?
It's I've seen it before. Yeah, gifting memberships. That's awesome.
Gifting memberships.
What's
That's
that?
Grace. Take a bow. He's gifting out Bhoycie Bus memberships to other viewers.
Basically, he pays for them and then allocates to other people in the chat if they claim them. So
That's
Oh, nice one, well done, mate.
Aye, what a sound guy. So nice one. And then returns of chunks of my chunks coming in, and he's saying, beware though of the Rangers ref and the VAR ref on Sunday. They will F us over at least once. If the game is fairly officiated, I would feel more positive. I mean, I think that's a different talking point for what we're saying right now, Liam. I'm trying my best not to go down that road already ahead of the game, because there'll probably be enough hours on the bus spent reflecting on it afterwards if that were to happen. But in terms of the team right now, I mean, if you just focus on Celtic and forget who it is we're playing, I mean, we're in a good place for this fixture, and in fact, we couldn't be better placed.
Well, the way we are playing football right now, it doesn't matter who we are playing against. The way we're passing the ball about, the way we're running down the channels, the way the ball is now that we're getting that really nice pattern forming of the inverted fullbacks, and we're not camping on their 18-yard line. We're pressing. We're always penetrating. We're always seem to be going forward, and we're always trying to get something happening in the end result of each play, rather than that, like when Rodgers, when it used to go around the arc and stuff at the back. So I think I'm much more direct, and that's coming with the confidence, and that confidence right now has been building over these, I think since the World Cup. We've had players that came back to the World Cup in form, and that form has managed to permeate itself through the entire team now, that everybody seems to be clicking at their maximum potential right now. I think Kyogo coming into this fixtures just with that bit of confidence, knowing that he has that goal against Rangers already. And what we've seen about Kyogo already is we know he's a big game player. If we just go back and I look at that cup final last year against Hibs, that was a different Kyogo that came on. He was a bit more ruthless, a bit more direct. Was he running about helping players up in that game? No, he was clinical. And the fact that we took advantage of them, still celebrating a goal and that, went round the other end, just like bang, even took that away from them.
That video of their fans has got to go down, Liam, is one of the best things ever. I can't even believe he's let that go public. Do you know what I mean? But that video of the Hibs fan, he's celebrating his pals, and it just dies in a second as the Celtic end goes nuts. That is a classic. Sorry to come in there. That was it just reminded me of that glorious moment.
But I think our form right now, we're class right now, and it doesn't matter who's in front of us, because that ball's getting passed by them. We're running past them. We're moving past them at speed. I don't think they'll get close enough to tackle us. If they do, as I said, the thing we don't want to go, it'll be the referees, I think, are more my biggest worry in this. My very first debut on the Bhoycie Bus was last year when it was the semi-final. I was on the night before that. And I was so confident as well that we were going to just run away with that game. But then you see what happens. Okay, we got a Bobby Madden doing the swan song. That game it was just ran down. We didn't get to keep our momentum and that thing going, that we never stopped that Ange philosophy. So I think if you see us, we're turning it out. If we're playing at 100 miles an hour, doing the things that we do, doesn't matter. I don't think they'll have. I think we'll punish them. I really, really do, because I think they'll panic. They've talked so much shit this week, and I don't think they've got the minerals to back up.
It's an interesting one, because even then, at the end of what Liam's saying, and I think, by the way, I'm the exact same, by the way, you can't help but when you're talking us up, Phil, you can't help but then just turn your conversation solely round to what their build up to this game has been. It's human instinct, I think, a fan of this fixture's instinct to do that inevitably as well. It kind of always goes that full circle. It's funny that watching Liam talking there, then eventually it turns out to, and they were talking shit, and you can't get it out of your head. I happen to think their manager's done a bit of a U-turn. I think he's not a full-blown U-turn, but I think he's definitely sort of backed off.
Back down, not doubled down.
He's not doubled down. He's kind of backed off as this fixture has got closer and closer. He is definitely not quite as, I don't know, fully himself for want of a better expression, has though added a factor with the past sort of 3 months sort of spiel that he's been given. I think he has. I think he's made me want to beat them a bit more. And by the way, I think there's another aspect of it which, dare say, I don't want to use the word respect, but you've kind of got to respect the actual run of results they've had, if not the performances. I mean, I've been quite critical, particularly the opening sort of 6-7 games I watched them play, and I thought, wow, he's not made any change there apart from they're nicking it. But the run of results now is over such a consistent period. That kind of adds to you wanting to beat them more as well. Is that fair, Phil? Because you're kind of like, well, let's re-emphasise we are the top dogs here. Do you know what I mean?
It's just natural football rivalry. That's what it is, really. I mean, I agree with you on the whole Beale thing. He's got a lot of bravado and gusto and saying this, that, and the next thing, but it's all just part of it, all part of the show, really, because it would be quite boring if it wasn't. Under Gio, he might very well be a better manager, but in terms of, like, he didn't, you know, there was, Ange had respect for Gio, and he just kind of kept quiet, but this whole coming out and talking them up and stuff like that, it just galvanise you a wee bit more, and I think it'll light a fire under Ange as well. I think he'll feel challenged by this one. He's like, oh, is that what you think, is it? And I think we said at the time when he first came in, Michael Beale, and all the praise was very much instantaneous for them. Again, you know, Angel took note of all that and thought, well, you know, I remember when I joined, when I came to Glasgow, I came to Celtic, and you didn't give me anywhere near any of that. And look at my CV next to his. It's like, so Angel, remember all this? This'll he'll be up for the challenge, and I think he'll be relishing this as much as, you know, you're right to point out that it does as a fan, you want to see them get beat a bit more. This does kind of get you more up for it, and I think Andrew up for it, and that could be to their detriment on Sunday if the big man's he's fired up, say the fire's lit under him, and he's up for it, then it could be very, very bad for them come Sunday.
Mr. Kearney, Ange won't tell us that he's in any way, shape or form bothered or reading any comments or listening to any comments. My argument would be, yeah, you'll know them all. Now, will it add to how much he wants to beat them? I don't think so. Will it, though, as David Loke's coming in here and saying, will it make it that wee bit sweeter for him, though, when he do? I would maybe subscribe to that. I think there will be a wee bit of him that goes, I'm fucking, do you know what I mean? Get it right around you. Now it's done. I don't think he needs to use it as something that motivates him. I don't think he uses it as part of his team talk. I don't think it means he changes his tactics or anything like that. I think after it, he's only human. Do you know what I mean? I think after it, you kind of go, had a chance to sort of now reflect, because that's what I think a lot of the managers do. See, when they see the players with the trophy and the fans going nuts, I think that's when they kind of do their wee bit of reflection. And I think David's got a point. I think you might just see whether Ange has really been listening or reading these comments, Mark. If and when we win that trophy, let's not call it a title, right? When we win that trophy at the weekend, he might just give the game away a wee bit that I've actually been listening all along.
Well, one of his most famous speeches he gave to the Australian team was telling them how he wanted the Morris papers to be about them instead of a cricket player scratching his nose or farting. But anybody that's got any ideas that he doesn't care about what the media thinks or what the media says is totally missing the point there. Of course he cares. I mean, far from it. One of the first things he said when he came to Scotland was he's always craved the passion and what football gives the fans in this country, and how much it takes over people's lives and how much you see in the media. So you can't have it both ways. You can't pretend that you're not interested in the media but bum it up when you want to give you speeches to your Australian national team. But anyway, regardless of that, I think he'll have a wee smarmy response ready and waiting. If he does get asked a question post-match, he's absolutely been paying attention. Obviously, he's no use it as any motivation. I think he'll just probably laugh it off. And I think the reason why you're seeing a wee bit of diluting of Beale's arrogance is because he's like two boxers facing up to each other, and he saw the size of the other boxer, and he's seen the whites in his eyes, and he's went, "Oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be." Anybody, I mean, if you part of our wee pal aside, if you ask any manager in our league, I mean, neutrally, what do you make of these teams? I think I'd want him to say, look, Celtic are just a class above. Doesn't mean that Celtic can't get beat. I've said before, I've seen far better Celtic teams lose a match, and I've seen far worse Rangers teams win
I
a
agree
match.
with that too.
Don't ever. I don't mind being cocky. I think it's a brilliant thing to be cocky as a football fan. I try my best not to do it because the fall is very sore when you land. So I try my best not to. No. As I said before, we've got too many players playing too well just now for us all to have an off day. There's other factors that come into play. I agree with one of the comments. If Celtic show up, it'll not be about what the other team do. I think when Celtic show up, there's no a team playing at their best that can match us. But just something. You look at Beale when he was brought in with this fanfare and this lovey-dovey approach with the media. One of the first things that the Scottish media did was patronise Ange Postecoglou and asked him if he's ever seen European football before, and really made a pure arse of the guy. And the guy's like, "Listen, I've been to a World Cup. Do you know? I don't know who Hearts are. Do you know?" And he was.
You're right. That was the question that just came in my head, Mark.
I pure patronising.
What do you know about Hearts, if anything?
He's like, well, I've had Hearts players part of my national squad, and I know exactly who they are. And he lined up 5 Hearts players who I forgot, actually. It just shows you how tuned he was into. I said, I sent you a video the other day there in the group chat, and he was saying, sort of about the players not getting something, the attention on some part of their game. I think it was their fitness level, and I went, well, he's just told the world that he watches the press. You know what I mean? He's chilling the press for not giving enough praise for the fitness levels of his team, which might come into question. Might come into play on Sunday because it could go extra time. But I'm in total belief that if there's any guy that's going to keep the players focused, this is what's important. This is where Brendan Rodgers was totally different from Neil Lennon. And maybe even if you look at it from Martin Neil to a certain extent, Ange, as he says, isn't a Celtic fan. I might break your heart to hear that, right? But he's not a Celtic fan. He can just sit there with his notepads like Brendan Rodgers and make the right decisions. See, you take away emotions, you take away that that chance of the heart making a decision rather than the head. And you watch Brendan Rodgers. I was at Ibrox when we done that. You look at their bench when it was 2 weeks. They went to red card for Simonovic. You looked at their manager and he's doing that to the crowd. And you look at Brendan Rodgers and he sat with his notepad, scribbled something, brought a sub on, and we won the match with 10 men.
Yep. He was doing mad hand signals. I remember it so well.
Totally emotionless. Just it was like he was ordering his dinner.
He'd prepared for it. I ordered his dinner. That's good. That is good. I mean, the only thing you could say is if Neil Lennon had picked James Forrest at Ibrox 2 months ago, I would have probably said that was an emotional decision. I was like, what is he doing?
Oh, but
it's because
see when Ange did it, I think Ange must have lost a bet because there was nobody on the planet that. I hope there's no curveballs this weekend. I hope he's.
Well, the curveball's an interesting part because I think obviously a lot of folk in the comments the last time we did the show were saying, the Forest thing. If you actually remember the narrative is Ange did not want people to know there was that bug going through the Celtic team, which there clearly was. I mean, I don't like to give Juranovic just because he annoys me. But I mean, if you look how he played, like I know he's not maybe the best player in the world, but he was playing like football was a foreign sport, like something he'd never ever played before in his life. And it's like, right, you're not that bad, you know what I mean? Whilst I don't think you're worth, 100 bazillion quid. And there was other sort of noticeable quieter displays, I think, Liam. I love the fact Ange never used that as an excuse, never went to it, but the word around the campfire was there was some sort of bug. With that in mind, that doesn't necessarily mean there won't be a curveball thrown by Ange because I do still think he likes one. But I totally take Mark's point of view. If there is a curveball, it wouldn't be a decision to go, well, how smart am I? Just doing something for the sake of it. I'll be picking a curveball because I'll think they've not seen that coming and how effective will he be against X? Do you know what I mean? For them, do you know what I mean? And I think that'll be why. But I still wouldn't rule out a curveball happening, that being said. Do you know what I mean? I really wouldn't.
I think the opportunity for where a curveball might arise or something is interesting. Because right now it seems like we only have like 2 options. We either like change O'Reilly and Moy. Is a curveball a what? Be part of that formation.
That would be a curveball. That would be.
I mean, you want another. Well, here's another one. If we're looking to get all our best players on the park, do you play Hatate at left back? I mean, the last time he played at right back, he was a man of the match. So
That's
you
right.
shift him there. Now you've got Hatate coming for that position. And then we've maybe got a chance of getting Moy and O'Reilly on the park.
Yeah.
You know, Iwata, a player. I mean, this is just off of pure fantasy stuff, right? What we do is fans here, you know. But yeah, I'd like to see that because I think it'll be interesting to see how they attack us. And if he's thinking, well, if I was Rangers, I'd still be targeting Taylor as much as he's improved in that as well. We don't even have a backup for him at that point because, you know, who knows what's happened to Bernabei if he even be on the bench, you know. And Taylor's had a record like Kyogo against Rangers as well, where there's often times where he's went off early injured. I think that's where he got his first shoulder injury, and then I think he done it again there, you know, with Juranovic having to come on the last time. I think it was Taylor got injured. But anyway, I'm looking forward to a curveball, and if it is, I hope it's one of these. I hope it's one that really surprises me, and I just hope it works. Because when I seen Forest in the last time, it was just like, what are we doing here? That doesn't make any sense at all to me. And you know, proved right. You know, I'd hate to see him start Turnbull again just for the sake of it, because you know I thought he was
I
poor.
don't see that.
His start, but the players that are in form. Thought O'Reilly played really good. I think he picks up his game against Rangers. Also, as well, it's a cup final. And it's a cup final. You want your players that are box office. You want the ones that are going to go out, put on a show in front of the fans, but retain their composure and fight for it as well. And that's what I was saying earlier. Diogo, he looks like a cup final player. You know, I think Moy, I'm yet to see a big game for him and a big game that matters like this one. It'd be great to see him come in and shine, you know.
I take that point on board. Yep. I take that on board. I mean, one curveball, if there was to be a curveball I could not want to happen, Phil, but could see happening, it would be, for whatever reason, Jota coming out that team. Because he has done that a few times, you know, and I don't know. That would be the only one I'd go, I had a feeling you might do that. Don't know why. I would never do that in a million years. He's my favourite out of all the wingers, but so be it. But again, that's just speculation, really. Stubbsy Sauce comes in because it is a forum, so we'll keep going through your questions now. Up to that hour mark. Stubbsy Sauce is saying, question, is this trophy actually a bogey for us, as it's the one we have found most difficult to win historically? Well, very quickly on that, if this is a bogey tournament and we've won it 21 times, I think we're doing all right.
Well, because I think it only started in the 70s or the 60s or something. But I think Jock Stein lost about 5 or 6 or 7 in a row. I think we had a bad record back in the day. So I think that's what put people's mind that we've had a bad record. I think we've played in 35 finals and won 2021. So I see the point, but I think League Cup is part of the Rangers. We're well into the double figures of winning that. So I'm pretty confident that Sunday's going to be the next one and the next trophy that we hold up.
I mean, if we're trying to work it out as Celtic fans, Phil, who watch, you know, every minute of every game, then talk about it all week. Do you know what I mean? Every single minute we're digesting, we're taking in and giving our terrible opinion on it, of course, on a regular basis as well. and yet, if we don't know, right, what the curveball could be, it's got to make predicting to play against Celtic very difficult. I mean, you talk about the options. I'm thinking of another curveball now as well. It could potentially happen. Could Segrist, if fully fit, be back in as the cup goalkeeper? Because that is how he started this competition, isn't it? And the only reason he's missed the game was through injury. Am I right?
It was. I missed the semi-final due to injury, because I did bring that up and I said, well, what if he was fit for the final? Personally, now, I don't see it happening. I think it's going to be Joe Hart all the way. I think at this stage, it's a cup final. You've got to play your strongest 11. And had Segrist been fit for the Kilmarnock semi-final, I think he would have kept his place there. But that doesn't mean that I think he would have kept the place for the final because of who we're playing and the gravity of the fixture, which it's Ange's gift to do. So, you know, at the end of the day, I know I've seen some managers do that in the past where they'll stick with the cup goalkeeper throughout, through thick and thin, no problem.
It's a
But then
very
other times,
EPL thing, isn't it? It's a
It
very
is,
down.
it
It's a
is,
very
yeah.
like Jurgen Klopp and Guardiola on like
Yeah.
some sort of. Yeah, it's like you're playing your rivals though in the FA Cup final. Why are you going with that idiot in goals? Like, was it Guardiola who did it? Was it last season or the season before? And I don't know who that backup goalie was. but he
Stefan, American guy, he tried to play football,
American.
and
That's right.
Sadio Mane slid in and put it in the net.
I
Aye.
mean, you're just like, no, mate. Just didn't be daft. Didn't be
Yeah.
daft. But yeah, we're just for a wee bit of debate. Monty's saying, no, Bhoycie. Alex Forsyth says, aye, Russell, but surely not enough game time. No chance.
Well,
Did you just call me Russ? Stevie Kenny.
Russ.
He says, you
Ooh.
mischievous wee bugger. That, yellow card for the Russ bit, by the way. But I think, aye. I mean, we could speculate
See,
forever.
they
It's-
stuck by that John McLaughlin against us last season in the semi-final, and they got away with it. But I don't see. My feeling on this curveball theory is I don't think there will be a curveball. That is the
No.
curveball. There will be
Okay.
no curveball. That is the way it'll be. It'll be pretty much strongest team. I don't see him throwing in.
So you know the team then, Phil? You know the team?
I just don't see him doing it. I don't
Give
see
me
him
the team
throwing in
then.
the James
There's
Forrest.
no
or anything.
curveball, right?
Well, the
There's no
strongest team at the moment would be Hart,
Go for it.
Taylor at left back, Johnson right back, Starfelt and Carter Vickers. And I know a lot of people don't like Starfelt, but he's going to play. It'll be McGregor, obviously, as a captain. I would stick with Hatate. He's got to play. Now, the Moy and O'Reilly one is the only one, but I don't think either of them would be deemed a curveball. I think if you start one or the other, I think it's fine. It's amazing to think that Moy has come to the point that he is now. So I think whoever he starts there, I'll say Moy. But if he starts O'Reilly, I don't think we're in any bad shape. I think it'll be Maeda, Kyogo, and Jota. I think it'll be that 11. I don't see a Haksabanovic or anything coming in who would maybe be deemed a curveball. He's a good player, but he's not had much game
Very good
time
player.
recently. That would be sort of like an outside, like, oh, didn't see that coming. So I think he'll stick with the strongest possible 11 right now.
Is there any injuries right now in the squad, Matt?
No, I know. No, man, you mentioned Seagrass and they mentioned McCarthy the other day there, and a couple. I think it's just the ones that don't feature, mate, that are injured.
Who mentioned McCarthy?
Well, there was
Oh my
a
God,
thing
would
the
be
other
a
day there,
curveball.
but they ran through the injury list the other day there.
Oh,
No, that's not a
Like,
curveball. I mean,
I wanted it to work, but geez, that like.
No, they asked a question about who's injured, and
Oh, fair enough.
nah, I had a chance of Mickey Johnson coming back. I was just quickly when I remember Rangers used to play their cup games and let Alan McCoist manage the cup games. Do you remember that? Walter Smith was a league manager and Alan McCoist was the
That
cup
was
manager.
bizarre.
In fact, the night we were fighting at Celtic Park, Lennon and McCoist, I mean, I think he was still the manager. Walter Smith, he was in the stand. Walter Smith was the cup manager at the time. So if Walter Smith was there, it might not have happened. But I don't know if you remember that.
I
So
do.
McCoist was manager that night.
Because the cup games McCoist was allowed to manage. It was supposed to be
That
that he
rings
was
a bell.
passing the baton to Rangers, to McCoist, and kind of give him a kind of tutorship. And I think the guy was in a better job, but it was probably a good idea.
I think, if I remember correctly, Smith must have came down by that box. I'm sure it was when remember Juff and Lennon nearly fell out during the game in that match.
Was that what
And
Ken
they
McDowell
fell-
you talked about? Who was close by, and I think that was the other figure that's. I know this the scene you're
There was
talking about.
Juff was kind of marching up and doing the
Aye.
touchline, and Lennon was getting told just to stand with his back to them by Thompson. And I think there was a wee bit of tuning for it. It might have been still in the first half, but it was Walter Smith who definitely grabbed McCoy's back. But I never even think when I look at those memories, it was McCoy who was in charge of that team. That does ring a bell, you saying that. That's interesting.
And they had Alexander was the cup goalkeeper, and obviously they had the other one.
Well, on that basis, John
aye.
Kennedy to take the team on Sunday, Liam.
Aye.
Aye, for a night out.
But we are in that stage now where they call it battle fever. I don't really look at it as battle fever. I mean, this fixture's something that I think definitely captures the imagination, but it's one to be excited about. Do you know what I mean? It's one to be excited about, whether it be the strong Rangers. I mean, you need to decide who you're playing. Because if you say you won a quadruple treble when they were in the top league and we knocked them out of half of those competitions in the semi-final stage and what have you, they'll say, well, that was different. Well, who were you then? right? And then so they can't make their mind up. And then if they talk about their golden years, well, that definitely wasn't real because we all know what was going on then as well. Do you know what I mean? A financially doped version of them. So I don't know which version as we play each season upon season, but all I do know is it definitely gets the juices going and you want to beat them all the same. Now, there's a comment coming here from Errol saying he hopes Carl Starfelt doesn't have a brain fart at any point. I'm sure we can all share that.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be my worry. I think Kaiser's got a point. He says Starfish needs to stay on his feet. And there is that. But again, I think these bigger games, we've got to also kind of trust Ange on this one. As much as we can all have a different opinion than Ange, I'm all for that. But I do feel that he'll feel that Champions League campaign when we're playing really good sides over a wee sort of like a consistent period bi-weekly. Do you know what I mean? In fact, it was even a wee bit more than that because of the World Cup. I think he thought that's when I needed my number one partnership, you know, playing regularly, completely match fit, and he never got the opportunity. This sort of game has to be definitely where Ange has his preferred partnership, and they've then got to prove why Ange is so definitely, I think, you know, I nearly said body, that doesn't sound right, but he definitely in Starfelt has more faith in him that I think a percentage of our supporters, I'm not going to say all, I'm not going to say them, like, do you know what I mean, everyone, but I definitely think, judging by the comments I see in here, there is undeniably some who still have a bit of doubt about Starfelt. What an opportunity for him to put all that to bed as well. And for Ange to go, see, this is what I mean. I wanted those two for my bigger games. This is why they're my two partners in centre-back. And this is why Kobayashi can afford to sit on the bench. And this is why Jens is already for the off.
I mean, it's a big game for Starfelt to prove himself to the fans. He's one of these guys that, he's been a bit of a whipping horse for some people in the support. And rightly so. When he first started with some of his, like his own goals and stuff like that, he was getting the ball away all the time. In fact, I remember saying, if Alston doing that, we'd be wanting him out the team, you know. And so Starfelt's had a lot of patience from the fans. So I think it's time, let's see what he can pay back. If you look for another curveball, maybe it would be Kobayashi. I thought Kobayashi, when he came in and he filled in for Carson Vickers, remember when he played with Starfelt, I thought Kobayashi looked really good. And if we're buying these players, we're bringing them in for Japan in the winter timeline. I think we need to get a better value, a better result than having them sit out we're buying them for next season. If he's better than Starfelt and he's showing up in training, and I thought he looked good, I thought he looked composed. He didn't have that rashness. There was a couple of times he made tackles just in the inside our 18-yard line where he went hard and physical. He stayed on his feet and he got the ball. And there were two really good hard tackles that really helped us in games that we needed to win at that point. And so maybe Kobayashi could come in as well, because I'd like to see something like that. Where I think Starfelt adds quality to us is in the air. They're going to be, strangers, right? They're going to be given set pieces in dangerous areas for innocuous fouls. Ryan Kent will be falling over the ball, and then they'll be pinging it in. And at that point, that's where we need Starfelt's aerial presence. Why see Alistair Johnson show up as well too? I want us to win all the battles in the air, because that's where I always think we're suspect. Guys like Barisic and coming in that's been scoring with headers and that. And so if Starfelt want to have a big game, I think that's it. All his success will be in the air. When the ball's at his feet, just get somebody better than you,
But that's sometimes the chalk and cheese that you need. That's kind of that balance you need sometimes, you know what I mean? You've got a set piece facing it. He's just going to go out there and win that, do you know what I mean? And then when it comes to the ball, Hart's got two options. Cameron Carpet Slippers gets it every time, Phil, doesn't he?
He does. He's see the thing with Starfelt though, just regarding what we came up there about, a brain fart and stuff like that. I know there's a lot of fans out there that just will not give Starfelt time. I'm not saying anyone in the chat, and I know there's a few that out there that are just always, just will always go at him. The way I look at it is, you've ever seen that meme before, the Gordon Ramsay one? It's two panels. On one, he's kind of telling the lassie, she's crying, he's like, sorry, it's going to be fine. And the next one, he's like, oh, you fucking donkey. Well, that's how I feel it is with Starfelt at times, where any Celtic player makes a mistake, oh, it's okay, don't worry, it's fine. But Starfelt makes a mistake, oh, fucking donkey. So that's how I feel. Poor Carroll, he just gets it from anything he does. Now, the one that's going to haunt people is the semi-final last year, because obviously he bundled into his own net, remember, against Rangers. But I think any other Celtic player in that exact position at that point would have had to slide in, because if he didn't, Sakala was right behind him and had a tap in. So I don't really blame him for that one. But I know that'll be fresh in people's heads, and they'll be thinking, oh, please don't have a moment like that. So he just had to go for it, because it's the only option. That was a dangerous ball that came in. If you remember as well, that wasn't all his fault. We had no fullbacks at that point, remember?
Yeah. What are the main battles, Phil, that you see in this fixture? If you could think of head-to-head battles, and I mean, it's maybe more difficult these days. I don't know. I think the characters in the two sides used to be so much bigger. I used to always look forward to see as a wee, maybe not two of the most aggressive players, but I always used to look forward to the Agat and Lovenkrands battle. That was an absolute classic, because it was, they almost, I think maybe at high school I was arguing this, who's quicker and all that, you know what I mean? But I used to think those battles were brilliant. But when it came to Alex Ray against Neil Lennon, that was like, that's box office. Sutton throwing about battling with Amoruso. Those things were brilliant. I mean, has it calmed down from that now? Is it as simple now when Celtic's got players, inverted fullbacks? They've got Atati popping up every single position in the park, as Liam was saying, right back sometimes, and you're going, what are the one-to-one battles you're forecasting here that we could look forward to? I'm not entirely sure I can think of any in particular where it will just be one against one now, such as the sort of interchange in Celtic do.
It's because of the fixture itself is always associated with a bit of blood and thunder, physicality, but our team aren't about that. I think Ange has made it quite clear. His mentality is we'll just beat them by playing good football. Now, obviously, in the Rangers midfield, everyone says midfield is where most of the battles will be won, and they're going to be physical. We know who they're going to try and deploy. I know there was talk that Lundstrom might not make it for the final. I don't believe that. Whenever I hear any story in the run up to a Celtic Rangers game, and there's stories about this Rangers player's no fit. So I've seen it enough times in the 90s where you hear, oh, McCoist isn't fit, McGorham's no fit, and they somehow make the game. So I fully expect that big clogger will end up playing, and he'll try and make it as physical as possible. Do any of our midfielders stand up to that? I don't think it's as black and white as it's going to be a one-on-one battle. Again, I think we'll just try and play the ball around them. When it comes to more one-on-ones, you've got to be looking at the wingers and the fullbacks. Rangers' biggest weapon, going back to when Gerrard was in charge, and they've always kept going, it's obviously the fullbacks getting forward. As much as we say about Tavernier and the old penalty stuff, he does deliver a good cross. He does actually deliver a good ball into the box. You shut him down, though, getting forward, then that takes out that. Barisic is about 50-50. He can deliver a good ball, but he's definitely got deficiencies defensively. Borna back post, Borna, whatever you want to call him, stuff like that. So that's obviously something that we're going to have to look for this game, because the last few times that we've scalped them at Celtic Park, we've utilised that. These balls that we drive across the box, and Barisic is going to sleep at the back post. Abada sneaks in and scores, whether it's Maeda or Jota up against him, or even if Abada starts, whatever it is, that is definitely a weak point. But Rangers fullbacks is a key. So that's probably the more, when you're talking one-to-one battles, I say that's probably the most black and white definition of it at the weekend. Because all over the park, I say Kyogo up against their big centre-backs. It doesn't really strike me as a one-on-one battle, but the fullbacks up against our wingers, we've got to make sure we win that battle and shut them down at all costs.
That's absolutely fair. Now, Mark, I'll come to you. There's a few in the comments now, and I knew, again, like I was saying, it would go full circle when Liam was talking about our players, and then eventually we would go, and what about their piss show the past couple of weeks as well? Well, I knew the debate eventually when we speak about battles would turn into, but their players will foul hours all the time. Will the officials step up? What confidence you got in Nick Walsh for the weekend, Mark? And VAR, if you want to go
there. Absolutely zero, mate. The only thing I've got that's certain in my mind that the referees will do everything in their power to facilitate Rangers the full match. They'll cast an eye over every decision and make the decision with a Rangers point of view on it. I'm not getting doubt in my mind that the referees are biased towards Rangers. It's a fact. But as Ange says, we just need to be better than them and make sure VAR doesn't give them a chance. See if it's got 3-4 goals, doesn't matter what VAR does. And do you know what? It wouldn't surprise me that if Celtic have been actually this week been actually concentrating on keep your hands in your pocket. Don't dive in too early. We'll see how many penalties they're getting. Celtic must be. I mean, they would be really taking their eye off the ball if they're only concentrating on some of the decisions they're getting. And it's not just the big decisions. Like I think Greg Taylor and Johnson will need to be really careful on the wings that just don't give away silly free kicks. And Hattati's very, very silly for giving away free kicks 30, 35 yards out as well. And we need to be disciplined a wee bit there, you know what I mean? Because these games you're talking about, we won at Celtic Park 3-0 and 4-0. If you watch the games back, you'll notice they had very little set pieces. And that's how they build their momentum is we a ball into the box, I win a corner and then take it for there, you know what I mean? Maybe get a goal at it. And see, if we limit them, we know playing football that there's only going to be one winner. I mean, even teams that are Livingston's level are playing good football against Rangers for what I hear. So on the football level, Celtic will win the match every time. But the key battles, I think, Phil said that almost every top level football match is won in midfield. I think that's a very key part. But not just that, I think it can also be like when the game's gone in one direction, the referee can play a part in that because see, giving away silly free kicks, it breaks up Celtic's momentum, and we all know that if a referee wants it to a stop-start game, can really disrupt the ball playing players in one team, and that's Celtic. And if it's going to be a game of set pieces, then you'd fancy Rangers, wouldn't you? So the referee will know that.
It's an interesting point Mark makes, Liam, about the breaking up of the momentum, and I just think Celtic will have learnt from it as well, though, because I think he's right to highlight that. When you look at that Scottish Cup semi-final, Lundstrom's had a highlights reel of fouls. A highlights reel of fouls. Do you know what I mean? It was a joke. And because they were in that 50-50 area where they knew could just get away with not giving that. Do you know what I mean? But instantly it's breaking up the momentum and it's getting you away with a wee bit of murder as well. Do you know what I mean? At the same time, because that is what we need to be wary of. Because if it's not clear and obvious, we can't expect Uncle VAR to come in. If it is clear and obvious, i.e. Connor Goldston tips it over the bar, we can't expect VAR to come in, right? There is that aspect that we need to be wary of. But I just wonder as well if what you build up in these games, and I always go back to Seville 2003, for example, right? It's so easy to blame Porto. So easy to blame Mourinho and call them the biggest bad. I felt Celtic weren't streetwising off that game. And I felt they were falling for it. They maybe, like Mark was saying earlier, they're playing with the emotion a wee bit too much of it, where, you know, this will happen. And if we all know this will happen, surely Celtic know this is likely to be part of this puzzle that we need to solve on Sunday. And now with a wee bit of experience as well of having it and the result not going our favour, albeit after extra time. At the end of the day, we went out the cup that day. Surely, you know, with that experience becomes a wee bit more street wisdom, if you will. And, you know, the players will maybe be a wee bit more sort of prepared for that aspect of it, albeit there's only so much you can do.
I think you see that in Ange's preparation with the players for the game is, you know, I think our players are very, very emotionally adjusted. You don't see anybody getting in the ref's face and screaming. I mean, it drives me mad. Sometimes I wish we would get a bit more emotional in the park, but that's just me.
Yep,
you know?
I hear you. I hear you.
I played with emotion, you know, and you know, like it bothered me the last game that when Kyogo was getting roughed up by the defenders, and you know, it was a small frame as far as where the camera was. I didn't know where the other players were at that point, but because I only saw it in the telly. But I was really hoping I'd see like an Alistair Johnson or a Craig Starfelt or a Carl Starfelt or somebody just get in there amongst it and show just a bit of like unhappiness with the referee and some of his decisions as well. But again, Ange's got this team so finely tuned that they're out there and they're driven. They know exactly what their roles are. They know that they want to do it. And I think they are told by Ange he does not want them talking to the referee. He does not want any involvement in decisions or anything like that sort of thing. And that leads to like a more disciplined performance, I think. And I think you'll see Rangers losing it a lot. I think where the referee comes into play, the one thing I'm worried about is like Seems like we're still getting enough of a lot of free hits. You know, there's 2 or 3 tackles that are allowed in the beginning of this game, and I've seen everything for the cup final one, the ones we're talking about tomorrow, where Goldson came on, and the first thing he did is he put a marker on Eddie right away. It's battered right into him, coming in off an injury. When the last game at the semi-final, same thing. Lundstrom clatters right back into the back of Hatate, and at one point it looked like Hatate was going to go off, but no, he played on. But if you're played on and you've got like an ankle knock or something, that completely changes your game and your style, especially when you're, like a player like Hatate, where it's all about like balance and pivots and motion and turning and, and sharp corners and that sort of stuff. And so, like having a done at the beginning of the game can really sort of hinder your performance. So I'm hoping that he has the guts to hand out an early yellow card to them, but guys, I've seen it before. Just piling up, and then there's never a card given, and then it's usually Callum McGregor will brush somebody off the ball in the middle of the park, and that'll be the first yellow card of the game. It always seems to go, and I know I'm just ranting at this point, but
you're all right.
James knew that's usually what happens when there's some sense of unhappiness and I see our team going sideways. Usually it's what happens is it started with bad refereeing performances that's not allowed us to play our game, and we've had to change or adapt to suit, and that doesn't work.
You're right. That's been out in 11 minutes. We will leave it there, lads. Mark, I don't know if you're still awake or no, pal. You all right?
I'm sorry, mate. I was trying my best not to yawn there. And I wouldn't cause Liam was talking or listening to them.
Don't you worry about that, mate. No, I'm only teasing. It is 11:15. We've got loads more build up to do for the cup final this weekend, which we're all extremely looking forward to. Hopefully, what Liam's just saying there, none of that will come to the fore this weekend. I mean, I'm not holding my breath, but preferably not. Phil, Bustalgia, we're going to take a League Cup final turn against that mob, whatever we're calling it these days.
The other mob,
Cup final.
Yeah, tomorrow's shows is going to be something we've actually not done yet. Isn't it? We've done seasons, we've done player focus, done player versus player. We're going to look at 2 specific games this time. So the first hour we'll look at the 2009 League Cup final, Gordon Strachan's final season, his final trophy as Celtic manager, 2-0 win for Celtic that day. And then in the second hour, yes, it will be the 2019 League Cup final. That's going to be an eventful one. We're going to have the brothers Bhoycie on to tell us about how they scared all their neighbours to the point where they can't even look them in the eye anymore, because she's alluded to that the other week, and I want to hear more context.
That was interesting. That was 2019, so very quickly. I mean, I just literally split with like a long term bird and all that stuff, right? Moved out the house. Next day, I think it was that cup final. And obviously you're in a place of a wee bit of bitterness, shall we say, a bit of anger. And obviously you're upset. Your life's turned upside down. You're, sitting in my mum's bed going, how am I here? Like, what's going on in the middle of nowhere? And that game was the last tonic I would ever recommend to anyone to try and get them, help them get over the split of a relationship. It's so raw. I was like, what are they trying to do to me today? I've just had 4 years of bliss. I honestly died. But we'll talk about it more tomorrow. We'll have a proper crack with that. Thanks to everyone on the chat, as always, Liam, Mark, and Phil. Everyone in the comments been absolutely lively tonight. Thanks to the likes of Tattoo Face, who's bought a few folk memberships and stuff. That's really kind.
Yeah, thank you.
And just to each and every one of you for getting stuck into the comments. Sunday is getting closer.
I mean, you've all that stuff at the start. They won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.
Bye.